We got great insight from 4 leaders that have been part of education for many years. I'm going to start, not right now, but I will in a minute here, introduce our moderator, Ryan Siemens. So Ryan's the Director of Education Markets for us in the U.S. Ryan and I work very closely together. He's going to be moderating today. He oversees our education strategy and I'll call it our business. So he's going to be working with both not only just K-12, but also higher education on how we look at a connected learning environment and supporting teaching and collaboration. As you've been moving around and seeing different applications here, like even in our Whisper Suite, we're doing some interesting things on the commercial side. We're doing the same thing on the education side. So nice broad ability here for us today. Ryan's going to be joined by Nick Williams, Brian Trivett, and James Magucki, and they're going to be introduced separately by Ryan. So with that, I would like to give a warm welcome to Ryan, Nick, Brian, and James.
All right. I'm going to cheat as well. And I usually stand, so I'm going to stand during this part, and then I'll sit. I'm a roamer. All right, we want Nick to come up first. So Nick is the Director of Technology Innovation for Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation. He has a lot of stuff to share here, which is awesome. A lot of expertise as well. So he is a certified educational technology leader. He's spoken nationally at a lot of conferences. He's taught educational technology, et cetera. So a lot of knowledge here that he's going to share with all of us. Next, we're going to go to Brian. Again, a wealth of knowledge. He is certified educational technology leader as well. I think it's pretty cool. He focuses on building technology ecosystems that empower teaching and learning, which is obviously the main goal of what we're doing in pre-K through 20 in our country. And then we're going to go, let's go to James. Now, James is the higher ed representative here. What you're going to see is there's actually a lot of overlap between what we're talking about with K-12 and higher ed. He is the Director of Learning Spaces at Indiana University. I'm going to be asking him some questions about artificial intelligence. Obviously, the K-12 leaders here will pipe in as well. I know we did a lot of AI for the people that were here earlier. There was a lot of AI in the workplace conversations. What we're finding is a lot of these conversations transcend verticals. They also, obviously, K-12 into higher ed, there's some overlap, especially in the common space technologies. So what we're going to do is really focus on their knowledge background. The goal here is not to talk about FORTÉ. I just said it, but we're not going to talk about it. The idea is for everybody in this room, if we can get one little nugget to share with you that you can take back with you to help you in your day-to-day, that's our hope and dream. So a little bit about me, I'll shorten it. I'm a former 5th grade teacher. You'll probably hear it in my accent, for lack of a better term, in the state of Minnesota. Close. So former 5th grade teacher, tech integration coach, instructional technology coordinator before I jumped over in 2009, jumped over into the ed tech space, and I'm currently at FORTÉ. Focusing on educational technology adoptions and supporting all of you to do that. One thing I'll say before I sit down and we jump in, there's going to be some trends in questioning here. We'll have a break in between each trend here just to see if there's any questions from you all. So if you have something, if you're like me, you forget it real quick, write it down, do whatever you need to do, either on your notebook or on your computer or whatever. We'll give a chance for some audience questions and interaction as we go forward. All right, Nick.
Hello.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that we focus on in the questioning, and when I met with Nick before in preparation for this, is really trying to understand when you're looking at large-scale adoptions, implementations, projects, what makes the most sense? What do you have to think about? And so the question is, what drove large-scale implementation success? So number one, what worked? And number two, if something didn't work, can you share that with us? Kind of those landmines or pitfalls. What would you not do again? So what would you do again? from a large-scale implementation perspective, and what would you not do again, if there's any of those?
Yeah, and I'm going to speak more to some construction projects that we're working through. So we have a lot of schools, and actually 9 are in different phases of either planning or construction or wrapping up. And we are launching new classroom AV that's brand new to the teachers. We haven't built a new school in 20 years. So it's all very new for our staff and our district. So some of the things I would recommend is that you have a standard of what you're looking for and kind of stick with it. So you're going to have a lot of decisions when you're implementing projects, large scale. If you keep with the standard and have that idea in place beforehand, then that really helps. Assigning staff so they know exactly what to expect as well. So for these type of projects, we have somebody that is in charge of demo. We have our Wi-Fi guy that knows and when he needs to coordinate with the network and get those up in spaces. We have people ready to train when rooms are open. So it's a lot of staff coordination, but everybody knows their role and can hopefully jump in and get going there. And then I think just kind of lastly is talk with other partners that have gone through this before, because it helped us tremendously. We met with some other school districts, and you're not the first one doing it, so just making sure you have some reference there and can learn from them. What I wouldn't do, that was the second part, right?
Yeah.
So
this may be the most important part.
There's a lot. Again, it was all very new to us. So our first project was redoing kind of our nicest elementary in a nice area, and it was not, the contractor, at least we have for networking, was just our general electronic person. So we kind of went through it somewhat naively, blindly, and didn't have anybody really checking all of the electronics with network pieces for all of the AV we needed. It wasn't in partnership with our vendors. So it was very disjointed. Information was hard to get. So I would say moving from there, we have a partner that deals specifically with our tech, and we have a lot of coordinating meetings. So that has been smooth sailing since then for the most part. But there's just a lot better communication, and I think that's key of just knowing you're going to have to coordinate different parties to make sure you get a good product.
Perfect. Now, I know there isn't, most likely not every implementation is perfect, right? Do you have any knowledge or wisdom to share of something that maybe wasn't perfect, but how you solved that?
Yeah, well, we one time were trying to roll out like a new management system I was working at IU Columbus at the time, and it was rough. We didn't have the right amount of training beforehand. We really should have talked more to the campus about what was going on. I mean, it got to the point where there's the day before school, and I went home to sleep because someone had to open the office. Everybody else was hands-on to try to get this system up and running, and we got it, but there's a lot more planning we should have done, and communication and training, just for our own people, but our implementers and even our teachers. They're going to be using a new image, new software and whatnot. So yeah, there's some lessons learned from that for sure.
Now, one thing James, I'm going to bring you into this to piggyback a little bit, but we're going to add AI into the conversation. How do you design learning spaces that integrate AI, and obviously more than AI as well? When you're looking at furniture, you're looking at the AV, you're looking at just making it a seamless working or teaching space. So what do you look at to make sure that space is fully integrated and not have the technology be a distraction?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were just talking about this a little bit earlier. In K through 12, the students tend to be issued a device, right? So you've got some control over what they have access to and the technologies they're using. For us in higher education, that's typically not the case. And so we have to think about the different devices that students may be bringing and how they access the tools. And so we're always thinking about the ways that we can provide power, because they can't access Gemini or Copilot if they can't power their devices, for instance. And so ensuring that those spaces support technology from the beginning allows the instructor and the students to move through class and support those technologies. Also thinking about technologies, they need to last for a long time in our spaces, but we need some flexibility to be able to add in those AI components, right? So camera systems, microphone systems, they're now integrating AI into room design, and we need to be sure that those pieces of hardware and the software are capable of supporting that into the future and take advantage of those new features.
It's interesting. I had a conversation with a district recently out of Michigan, and the conversation was it was future focused, but it was to that point of, when we're looking at AI integration and implementation, right now everybody thinks about efficiency for teaching and learning, creating lessons, maybe even grading or creating differentiated learning experiences for different students. So it's really about kind of in that classroom, but the conversation we had really was, how is AI going to be the central component to all of the technology in the organization or on campus, and how do all those things work together? So obviously, we're not there yet. The AI is not necessarily there yet, but just to put a bug out for all of you, there's going to be a time and a place here not too long down the road where, how does AI actually interact and create efficiencies with all of the technology, whether it's cameras, production, even energy savings, and then obviously human resources and creating efficiencies there. Nick, you mentioned on the first question having a standard, right? So can you talk a little bit about how you leverage UDL or universal design for learning principles when you're looking at your implementations or your adoptions?
Yeah, so our district framework is universal design for learning. I think for the majority of the room, that's just universal design and architecture. So you get curb cutouts and you get automatic doors opening, and they're really helpful for everyone. And that is what we really use to design our classrooms. So if you go in with that framework, think about all of the diversity that is going to walk into a public school and how AV can help that. So we think about the display size, the display height, so that everybody in the room can see it. We're very intentional about lighting, about sound. One of the few proven things to help learning, besides everybody eating food, is lighting and sound. So if you're mic'd up, and all of our teachers have access to microphones to increase, just kind of hearing for all of the students. So really, we have rubrics that we use, and we use it for everything we look at, including a dot cam or any technology that comes in, including AI. And does it fit the needs of all of our students? So we're very intentional about starting there, and hopefully, that benefits all of our students that could walk through that door and help them learn.
Do you do anything similar? Maybe not UDL, but just in general, is there a baseline?
I think there's always trying to figure out how to do the best for all the students, and seeing what sort of needs we have, and there could be some different needs for physical or even language needs, but trying to figure out a best way to address all the needs for the students so they can learn at the same time together as best as possible. We might have to make some concessions and figure some things out, but just really trying to put the students first in any discussion when you start designing things, or you start talking about big purchases across the board and seeing, okay, we have this type of language population, how can we help them? We have this type of physical need, how can we help them? And just trying to address every need the best you can as you have these discussions at a high level. And really doing that for every project and keeping that front of mind, because I think sometimes we can get to a point where we're just in a little bubble and we don't necessarily see the needs of everybody across our entire district or organizations, and just really trying to keep that conversation going with everybody in the different representations that we have in each of our organizations.
So to that point, the question I have here, and you can piggyback off your own,
Sure.
your own answer, is looking at ed tech advisories or councils. How do you get those different stakeholders involved in a decision?
It's a great question. Main thing is relationships, and I just started Greenwood here in the last year, and so it's been trying to expedite relationship building. So part of that is we have monthly meetings with principals and they know their people and who might be good to serve on an IT council or give some really valuable feedback across different disciplines, support staff. And so what I did was just talk to the building leader, said, hey, I need some people. I want to do forward-facing projects and forward-facing IT initiatives. What can we do to bring that together and have valuable conversation? I've participated in other IT councils. We really are trying to keep a focus on the future-looking needs. I've been in councils where they go, we had a ticket we submitted this week and you haven't fixed it. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to look forward and have some things where we are really leading the conversation and focusing them back on what we're trying to accomplish. Because if we don't do that, if we don't set expectations early, like we're talking about this, the conversation can go awry pretty quick. And so what I've done with that previously is get a calendar invite with an agenda sent out early enough so people have time to sit there and look at it. And I wouldn't say have a super long meeting. My most recent ones we were doing 45 minutes, but saying, here's what we're going to talk about. We have 45 minutes, and then at the end of it, we're at 4 o'clock, we're done, and try to respect people's time and start that on time and have those conversations. And I think people go, they know what the expectation is, they know that it's going to be valuable discussion, and we've had some really good conversations so far and continue to look forward to doing so.
Thank you. Because the next question could probably take days. We're not going to take days. We're going to take minutes to address it. But anyone in the audience, as far as implementation, support, best practice, any questions as to what they've shared so far? I know they're crystal clear, but if there's clear as mud in some areas. All right. Well, this next topic may. Oh, is there one? Sorry. Go ahead.
When you're designing a space, how do you go between the technology that is cool versus stuff that people are actually going to use?
So the question, just in case others didn't hear it, when we're designing a space, how do you make sure that, or how do you look at and evaluate technology that's cool versus maybe purposeful and impactful?
So I think this would kind of piggyback off Brian's answer as well, but we start with like a core group that's going to be the project lead. So we would be the filter for the cool, but then you bring it out and start including more groups. And this group may be the one that gets all of the presentations from different partners and can really look through it. They're also going to be the ones that pilot. We try to pilot as much as you can and then kind of expand out to get the people who need to know and may raise a red flag if the technology you're looking at is going to have an issue with special ed, for example, we have to be considerate of. So we try to weed out the shiny objects in the vendor hall even, potentially that teachers may come back with in terms of hey, does this fit our needs? Is it affordable? Can it fit within the network? And that we really kind of control with the core team, and they have to go through a process if they want the cool technology to make sure it goes through approvals and fits with what we do. I don't know how IU would do that, but we're small enough.
Kind of a similar process with us. One of the things that we struggled with was exactly that, how to support the cool things. And we stood up basically an experimental classroom. And we invite faculty to come in and give us some suggestions. What are things that you would like to try? Here's a space where we can try it out, and let's see how it goes. And if we can support it and we can scale, we're supporting hundreds of classrooms all around the state, so we have to think about scale. If we can integrate those technologies and we can support them, then that's fantastic. And if not, then it's not something that we're going to be able to deploy widely. That doesn't mean that faculty can't use it, particularly in a departmental classroom on a small scale, but it just means that we may not roll it out, to everyone.
Anything to add? Good?
I think so, yeah.
I know, they covered a lot of it. Okay. James, what policies or guardrails have helped your, Support of AI innovation at IU, maintaining trust, equity, and academic integrity.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let me talk about the policy piece first. Things seem to be moving so quickly that putting official policy around AI just doesn't make sense right now. But there are frameworks, there are guardrails that exist today and that we can continue to develop to keep us on track and keep the trust and keep us safe. Education about AI in particular is very important. So privacy and security. We sign agreements with various companies. Most of these AI services are cloud-based services, right? So we look at the agreements. We look at privacy and security. What are they doing with our data? And we inform our students, our faculty, our staff, hey, you know what? Log in, use your IU account to log into Microsoft and use Copilot. We have an agreement with Microsoft that keeps our data within this environment. You can do these things. This is safe. This is approved to do these things. We don't want you to put grades or research or something else on somebody else's system. So, those are the things that we're working on. And this comes up in all sorts of tools, and we get requests to integrate all sorts of tools, analyzing videos, for instance. And you can imagine lots of things are coming out here. And we have to put them through the same process. And what kind of guardrails are there? What's this company going to do with our data? Are they going to agree to maintain data? We have a course called Gen AI 101. It's now available to all faculty, all staff, all students, and alumni. So if you're an IU alumni, look up the Gen AI 101 course. My boss, Ann Leftwich, who's the Associate Vice President of Learning Technologies, was vital to that program. We can continue to update that and expand that class, but it's an online course, and it talks about how ethically to use AI, and what are some tips and tricks on getting the most out of using the large language models, agentic tool, all of these sorts of things are all in that course. So I recommend that you do that. You'll move quick. It's absolutely amazing how quickly a person who has no background in using AI can find tools that will help them in their work or in the things that they do in their personal lives.
And I'd add that AI is doubling its capacity every 7 months. So we have, like you said, kind of the spectrum of teachers that want to use it and students as well. But if you wait 5 years, you're going to be behind. So education's a big piece on our end too with students. K-12, there's a lot more privacy pieces we have to kind of consider. A lot of the platforms are 18 plus. There are some education ones coming out for students, but we do have to think about data concerns and the implementation, or what AI could do for our student data and help our teachers is exciting everybody, but you can't just throw in student data into a general large language model. So we're also following the practice of not putting specific AI pieces in policy because it changes so quick. So there's some just general best practices to guardrail against cheating and everything else, but we've seen it before. We've seen it with the internet, we've seen it with calculators. It's a lot different and a lot more advanced, but I think you can learn from some of those past technologies that are coming out, and it's kind of the Wild West right now.
Yeah. I'll also say too, in the first couple of months I started, I had someone from the student paper reach out going, why is there an AI ban? Don't you trust us, essentially? Well, don't you trust us? No, not really. But I didn't, not exactly, but we're trying to be fun here. But I guess, kind of going back to James, do you all have any sort of active blocking of any sort of AI? If someone's trying to use their IU account to log on to something, is there anything that you can do to stop them, or is it just communicating out to, please go back to our Microsoft resources and stay there?
Yeah, there's a lot of communication. We can't stop people, right? That's part of security principles are, that education piece and responsibility of protecting your own data. But we do have agreements with Google. They can use Gemini. They can use Copilot. They can use ChatGPT. But they need to log in with their IU credentials, and so that we ensure that that data is contained within our instance. But we're not necessarily stopping people on the network level from accessing tools, because you can imagine there can be legitimate uses of tools where you're not sharing data as well. One of the things we do recommend for faculty is that when they start the semester, they communicate to their students what their expectations are for AI. You may have one class, for instance, where the expectation is, don't use any AI. We need you to work through this math problem, and we expect you to do all of your work. There may be writing courses or something else where the expectation is that you use AI. You need to take advantage of the tools that are there. So we recommend that each faculty member be very clear about that at the beginning of the semester for their course. This is what the expectation is for AI, and here's how we're going to use it in this class for this semester.
I think that's a really good point of looking at the different stakeholders, from teachers to students. One thing that I would urge, I have a student that's on an IEP, and so I've been working with their case manager on how can AI be an accommodation, not a replacement, but how can they build efficiencies in what they're doing to help them perform on whatever that task is, that demonstration of understanding. How can they use AI to get there? Not use AI copy paste, that's not what I'm talking about, but we've had really good conversations about how can students self-level their reading text based on, maybe the class, and this is a high school class, so a lot of the students are getting that same text. Could I take that, throw it into AI, and say, hey, can you put this at a 7th grade reading level? And just create some of those self-accommodations that's, not necessarily can I copy and paste and quote unquote cheat, right? So I just challenge you to think about all the stakeholders in all the different ways you might be able to use AI. But to your points, it's going so fast, right? So that policy is probably dead 24 hours later. So it's, it's having that gray in that range to be able to do it. I have one more question, but I do want to give a minute or two if there's anyone that has any questions around AI out in the audience for these gentlemen. No? All right, so last question, and I'll kind of throw this, we'll start with Nick, but I'll throw it out to all three of you. We've talked about a lot of different, things you've learned, best practices, what to stay away from, what to be thinking about in those pre-K through 20 environments. Is there one thing, when these individuals leave, is there one thing that you would like to remind them of? So for example, the question is, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them when planning for projects or initiatives?
I think just being inclusive and we've all touched on it. We work with a lot of people, and it's pretty unique in the education space as well. So we have to support the entire district, special ed, ELML. You also have to work with your vendor partners. You also have to work with district leadership. Our teachers union's a big piece for us as well. And it's just not being afraid to get groups together, to get feedback on projects that you are working on as a technology leader. And especially AI, everybody's jumping in, and they need you to be the leader and to bring people together and the expert on it, because it's a lot, and they're gonna be more focused on their end of whatever it is they're working on. So just don't afraid to be the leader that can bring people together.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking off what Nick was saying, relationships are really a currency, and developing those relationships before you have the need for a project. You don't know when you're gonna have to work with someone, you don't know in what capacity you're gonna have to work with someone, but just going through and introducing yourself, learn about some hobbies or family interest or whatever, just developing that stuff ahead of time, so when you do need to work with someone, when you do need to maybe ask them for a favor, you've already got some sort of relationship built up. So the first time they're seeing you, you're in their office going, hey, I know we haven't met, but I need X, or can you help me with Y? And so, yeah, just relationship building from the get-go, and trying to really expand your network out as quickly as you can, especially when you get into a new location.
Yeah, I'll echo that. And I think, building those relationships and then finding a champion for whatever project you're working on makes a difference. And, these tend to be complex institutions that we work in with lots of different people and lots of different perspectives. But if you can find one, two, or a handful of people that are champions for the things that you're working on, it surely makes it much easier to be successful.
Perfect. Well, we're going to transition back to Don and potentially Josh. But first, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to share that knowledge. Again, hopefully the goal is that everybody grabbed one thing that they can take and use when you go back, maybe today or tomorrow for sure, possibly. So, you ready, gentlemen? All right, thank you, everybody.